Here we go. Another episode of the Rise and Grind podcast. Hope everyone is having a heck of a week. The weather's getting better out there. People's moods are increasing, and spring is right around the corner. There's a good quote that is a great layup for this episode. And I don't know who said it, but I would love to hear if someone knows who originated this quote. Competition happens at the bottom. Collaboration happens at the top. And what I'm talking about is bringing on Brooklyn Kalista, the awesome real estate agent in town and also the owner of Royal Lepage Community Realty. And I have zero issues bringing on another realtor onto this podcast because if you remember back to episode 1 where I laid out my criteria for guests is number 1, they have to be a rising grinder, someone that wants the best out of life. And number 2, I need to be interested in talking to them. And Brooklyn checks those boxes absolutely 100,000%. Brooklyn is an absolute grinder. She not only is a high producing agent, which is, I tell you what guys, all consuming at times. She also owns and operates Royal Lepage Community Realty. I don't know how many agents they have, but a ton. So she is essentially the boss there. And she helps build an environment for other agents to grow their business. And that in itself is another full-time gig. And also she's very ingrained in the community. She's building out ways and environments to give back to the community. Not to mention those 3 vehicles. Holy smoke, she's a great person. She prioritizes her family. She prioritizes her health and wellness. And she has a really cool story. We dive deep into her origin story of real estate. And we also talk about some of the challenges of owning a brokerage and in the ever-changing landscape of real estate. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. You'll hear Brooklyn from the tone of her voice, just how much passion she has for helping human beings. And I think if you are in the real estate game or in the public service game, it's like, or even if you're selling a product, I don't think of myself as like a person that sells houses. Like maybe that's how I get paid, but my job is to build relationships with people to earn the right to maybe help them out in that buying or selling process. So very different way to look at it. And I know Brooklyn looks at her businesses the same way. How can she help people? And when that's the foundation of it, it's not only very inspiring, but I do want people to hear that Brooklyn is genuinely an awesome, awesome human being. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you learn something. And as always, guys, rise and grind. Here we go. All right, we are live. Welcome, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's your schedule's crazy, especially this time of year. I wanted to start off by just talking about your journey to real estate, Brooklyn. I know you wear a ton of different hats. Walk me through and maybe kind of step back. When did real estate first come into your life? Give me like kind of the origin story of you as like the real estate agent, Brooklyn.
Yeah. So, if you're local to Medicine Hat, you might have some sort of background or history understanding that my dad was a realtor. So I am second generation. Surprisingly enough, I don't really think that's what prompted me to want to be in the industry. There were things about it, that I saw that I appreciated, but also things about it as a child that you're like, hey, this isn't that great having a parent that's, away all the time. And also being in a divorced home, it was like a whole nother dynamic. But what I did see that I loved is just the charisma of the industry and working with people. I knew that was always something that I appreciated doing, was being involved with people. And so as I aged, you are doing your own things. I got very into athletics. I played soccer very competitively, and I feel like that gave like good ground base. I went to college on a soccer scholarship. I took a business admin program, but at that point, I had already known I wanted to do real estate. I had been doing jobs, just the typical, you turn 18, it's like as a female, serving, was a good job. You could get tips. So I did that. And I did really appreciate dealing with people, seeing different people every day, opening up those discussions, getting to know people. And I really, really like that. I like the diversity of it. I like the skill of it, that you're learning to actually work your own systems and how to communicate with people. I found that intriguing. So I knew I wanted to be a realtor, just even doing that, selling phones, all that sort of thing. I kind of had a mix of sales in the background. And so I went through, did college. At that time, my dad had actually bought Dominion Lending Centers, and he was very nervous for me to get licensed so young. I graduated at 17. I was a January baby, so I had started early. And he just felt like, maybe mortgage brokering would be a better fit, a little bit more ease into success. And so I did actually take my mortgage broker's course at that time. I really trusted the opinion, right, of somebody who had been in industry for so long. And my sister had gotten in a really bad bike accident at that time, actually. The partner she was with, he's no longer with us. And she almost, didn't make
Wow.
it with us for life today. So at that time, I was so young. I was 19 years old. And we lived together. So she literally left the house. An
Wow.
hour later, I got the call. And that was like the fastest way to get an understanding of really how sweet life is. And
Mhm.
that if you want something, you have to do it now because your
Yeah.
time is not promised. It was a very different thing being my sister, so relatable. Different, we've lost grandparents, all those sorts of
Mhm.
things, and not that the loss is any lesser, it just is a different impact. And that impacted me heavily. And from that moment, I decided like, no, I don't want to do mortgage brokering. I want to do real estate. I didn't want to look like I was flip-flopping or indecisive. I didn't know what I
Sure.
wanted. And I just thought, this is what I want. I want to start investing now. So
Wow.
after she had gotten out of the hospital, it was a long time of just like getting her, back to life in the swing of things. And then after that, I had kind of gone into it. I had started out in a partnership, and that was actually a really great push for me at the time, too. It was somebody who was a little bit older than me and in a different position. And so I kind of started off that way. It didn't work out how, I think either were expecting.
Sure.
And so we had gone our separate ways, and likewise business had too. And at that time, I don't know, I think I was close to 5 years in at that time, very, very close. So it was like a pivotal point in my business, and it was nerve wracking, but we did
Wow.
it and never looked back. So
So, thank you, Brooklyn. There's so much stuff there we can dive into. First thing that comes to my mind, like, so you got your license when you were 19 or 20?
I got my license at the time. I was in my 20s, and it
Wow.
was before Julia had come in. I was the youngest realtor. And I mean, two, even female. It was a little bit different. I'm not going to play
Yeah.
into that card. I don't really do that. But
Mhm.
it was, more of that like old boys club
Sure.
that was going on when I had gotten in, coming on 15 years ago.
Sure.
And at the time, I was the youngest.
That's
And it
that.
was hard.
Oh, I bet I can't imagine. And later on, I want to get into how the industry has changed through your
Yeah.
tenure being an agent. But I think that's really cool. And what I'm hearing you say is like there's a pivotal moment when you were still quite young, and instead of seeing that as like a negative, because like your life could have went in a different trajectory
Yeah.
with your sister, but it seemed like you took that the correct way and kind of paved your own path, knowing that like everything here is temporary, and like why wouldn't you want to lean into what you want to do, what your soul feels is right, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
so I had no idea of any of that, and I'm sure some of the listeners don't. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. My sister's all good today, so I'm sure there's people that would ask. And yeah, I was lucky enough to grow up in a spiritual, like consciously minded family,
Mhm.
which at times in high school, if I'm being honest, I felt like my mind space was a little bit different than some of the people that I had been surrounded by. But now today, I am so, so, so thankful for that groundwork, that foundation that was built at a young age, because you have those moments where you are very reflective,
Mhm.
and then you can take that moment and flip it into something you choose, right? We always have choice. So
Mhm.
that's
That's
kind of where that came from.
That's awesome. Well, let's stick on that then right now, Brooklyn. Like, are there ways that you're cultivating that within your life now, or is there some times in the day where you set aside for gratitude or for reflection or for kind
Mhm.
of that mindset priming that we all know is so powerful?
Yeah. So I have a journal book. I'll do my gratitude takes. Sometimes it's in the evening, sometimes
Mhm.
it's in the morning, and that's just by physically writing it down. I think that there's something really strong in doing that and impactful. However, honestly, I'm grateful all the time. You know, I walk by my vent in my house and it's pumping out heat, and I'm grateful. I am just like that person. But outside of that, I think that there are systems that I've applied to my life and continue to grow on because that's, I think the best way to go about living.
Yeah.
I do the saunas, I go in and out of cold plunging. I should stick with that more, but that's another story. And just being consciously aware, always learning and engaging the amount of, self-development books, the books on business, Think and Grow Rich,
Mhm.
Atomic Habits, all those sorts of things. I'm consistently just taking in that information because that's, I think, just so healthy for me and my brain and mindset to be able to do what I do each day and show up for my kids, which is number one, my husband, my family. When you're juggling so many things, it's easy to get out of your mind space and allow that agitation and negativity to kind of, you know,
Creep in,
take
right?
effect, creep
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
you said something important, just being consciously aware. And I think like if people want to get ahead, just being aware of things,
Hmm.
you're like probably half the way there, which is a big step. Now, those early years of being a realtor in
Hmm.
Medicine Hat, how did you? Because it's just like any business owner. When you start, it's all exciting, and then you're like, okay, now what, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about the now what and some of the learning curves that you had to adjust and things that you did to start to churn out business.
Yeah, it's definitely like that fight or flight. And being a competitive person at nature, always a good sport, but competitive person. And to myself, I've always been somebody who's very hard on myself on every aspect. And so for me, it was like I was going into this and failure was not an option. And so again, you take that mindset and then you pick choice. Okay, what choices do I have here so that I'm not in that position of failure? Because
Hmm.
I don't think my brain can handle that at this point. I'm too young. And so I just did everything that I could. I did lean into my dad and I were very separate. Also, like my partnership and my dad, it was not a good mix. And so there was a little bit of disconnect there for sure. But he had a hard childhood growing up. And so his concept was like, you make it on your own, you make your way. And because he owned Royal Lepage, it was very much like he did not want anybody to think that there was some kind of spoon being
Sure.
handed to me. And, in the moment as a kid who was an achiever, that was a little bit of a hard pill, to be honest. And not that I was expectant of anything, but it felt strange to have that disconnect. Now I'm so thankful for it. Like I would not change a thing because I had the insight. My dad is definitely an idea man. He gets very energetic about like ideas and passionate about like business, and he was very successful in what he
Yeah.
did. And so I was able to kind of dig into like his old book of things, which was really funny seeing
Yeah.
all the old marketing and advertising. But just figuring out what kind of tools I could do. Like as a realtor, we get into this, and you have overhead, which a lot of people don't understand. And if you
Crazy,
don't
right?
have that nest egg, you're going months without payment.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're not working. You might be, and maybe it just doesn't work out with some transactions, or some take longer than others, whatever it might be. But you're like the iron's on the fire, and
Yeah.
you have to hustle if you want to make something happen. And so um, I didn't have money to invest in, a whole bunch of
Mhm.
marketing and those sorts of things. So I hit the ground just like what you're doing out in Redcliffe now. And I've been telling my team, like, hey, you got to do these things, right? And I would create my own flyers, which I mean, back then we didn't have Canva and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So even to create a flyer was a tedious task, but I'm a creative person and I enjoy that side of things. So I'd create flyers, I'd go out and deliver them. I was like the open house queen.
Hmm.
Any agent I could lean into. I was so thankful to be a part of a large office with a a wide range of age demographic that I could lean into these people. I could, help them out and also help myself out. I was doing a minimum of 4 open houses for probably 7 or 8 years of my career.
Wow. Wow.
So, but that's what you have to
Yeah.
do. And being so young, it was awkward at times
Sure.
because I was, you're almost being overly formal to try and showcase like, hey, I know I'm young, but I'm here and I'm professional. And I
Mhm.
would always introduce myself to people when they come through open houses. Hi, I'm Brooklyn Kalista. I'm the realtor. Shake their hand, and they would kind of walk around, and I could tell they were confused. And
Yeah.
people would ask me straight up, like, do you live here? Are your parents around? Like, what? Like, no, I'm the realtor. So there was a lot of just like mind space that I had to build up a lot of strength and that thick skin to know, like, this is what I want. And it's
Mhm.
just not negotiable. What else am I going to do? And I just wanted to keep investing in me. I think that that is so important. And so, like, those two things were huge for just a free platform to get my face out there, to be doing something in my field, in my industry. I think a lot of times realtors get in and the draw of having that flexibility, all those sorts of things that people look at in a real estate industry, and they lean into it too hard.
Yeah.
They don't come into the office, which
Yeah.
I'm obviously a brokerage that has an office space. I'm not getting rid of it. I
Yeah.
think it's super
You need
important.
it.
I've lived through multiple different market styles now, and I know it in me that it is, right?
Mhm.
You have to show up, and not everybody has the ability to do that in a home space. Some people do, right?
Of course.
But some people don't. And so for me, it was like, you got to still do all the activities to build that success. You can't just get into an industry and then just stop.
Yeah.
Training was another thing, book reading, podcasts. As soon as they came out, that was another gear I leaned into just to keep my headspace good, mind positive, and just kind of keep going.
Yeah. The the biggest mistake that we made growing our team, and I know there's a lot of real estate talk in this, but it's
Yeah.
applicable to any business, in my opinion. Our biggest mistake, and this was, only apparent upon reflection, is we made the perception of becoming a real estate agent too good and too easy. When really, when you do get your license, it's like, holy smokes, now what? And we weren't talking about the struggles enough. It's not like we were trying to scare people away.
No.
But it's hard. The business is hard. It is an absolute grind. I even feel the grind being 6 years in. I'm like, holy smokes, like this market is way different, which requires a different skill set, right? So it sounds like to me
Mhm.
you were aware of that early on, and you're grateful for not having your dad hand you business because you had to learn those things, which I think is probably the foundation of your business still today, right?
Oh, foundation of my business, the foundation of the respect that I've curated with the peers in my industry. We took
Mhm.
completely different paths. I found passion in, writing positions on our board and running through my presidency and learning the back end of real
Mhm.
estate, which I think was also really important to do. That was something that really opened my eyes in industry, and actually at one point Royal Lepage Canada had asked me to speak on it, just being a board and membership and what that looks like. Being so young in industry, again, you don't understand how the back end works. And then when I jumped on the board and I learned, like, holy, this is a big machine in the back end, and there's a lot of governance and aspects that go into curating this industry to be protective to public and professional, right? And that was a really cool learning curve for me that I think just was another thing to add a tool in my belt. I flipped properties.
Ooh.
Again, you're not making money. You got to figure out ways to do it. And that was another opportunity that I had with my ex partner at the time. But also, then my dad had kind of seen that, and he's a businessman. He said, like, hey, if you want to use my line of credit, you want to flip a property, that's fine. We
Right.
etched out the numbers, and there was obviously a trust factor there as well. But that was a really great experience. And I knew it would be, to be able to allow me an opportunity to learn like the bones of a home, what actually goes into it, the permit process, contacts.
Yeah.
Contacts is such a huge tool for anybody in industry or life or whatever. But for me, particularly in real estate, it's like now I can help my clients even more. This is a
Yeah.
niche I can lean into. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
That I wasn't aware of all the different ways to serve people and to make money in real estate
Yeah.
other than just selling a house. But there's like six or seven other doors that I didn't even know
Yeah.
existed. So now, Brooklyn, I want to transition a bit into the broker role, which is a totally
Hmm.
different hat that you wear.
Yeah.
When did that first come into play? Was it something that you were always working towards? Can
Mm.
you talk about that transition, purchasing Royal Lepage?
Yeah. So, yes, obviously, like a very honorable thing that I wanted to do, just to be a second generation and uphold something that was, built by
Hmm.
my father. And ultimately, um, again, it comes back down to growth. I always knew, even if I wasn't going to be a broker owner, that I would go to get that broker licensing just to
Yep.
continue to educate myself. And I will tell you, it is very different than the real estate course. They give you 2 years to do it. It's big, right?
Hmm.
It's now you're in a completely different position. That hat is heavy, and so the education reflects that. So I took that education. You have to take your property management as well. So it's like now I had like everything. And then it was just a waiting game to understand really when Bob was going to be prepared to exit out of industry. And that took a bit too, right? Like he was going through the motions. He's lived and breathed real estate and people and business the
Yep.
entirety of his life. And now you're kind of going through a thought of retirement. And I think that I know that was a really hard transition for him. It was a business transaction. It
Yep.
took us 6 months to negotiate.
Wow.
We were at like a head strong moment. We're both strong people, empathetic and able to move on things for sure. But I think it's also hard when it's like father and daughter. But we treated it very much like a business transaction, maybe not your typical family turnover. So, lawyers, accountants, all the questions, getting a business profile, you have to investigate, right? It
Of
could have been
course.
easy for me to just, and I trust my dad, right? But this is also something that he built. It's his retirement. And you know what? On me, on the other hand, this is my new life and my livelihood, or taking away from my livelihood. So on either end of the spectrum, it was like, okay, I hear your number, but I'm also investigative and looking into this, and I kind of feel more over here. So we hashed it out. There was some hard moments in there, I will not lie, where it was like, okay, we're not talking for a little bit here. We need to just separate. We're not
Yeah.
seeing eye to
Wow.
eye. And I know, like with our relationship, we can always come back from that. And with anything, I'm a strong believer. You can, if you communicate, you can get through stuff. And yeah, we got through it. I bought it. It was nothing like I expected. I was buying a turnkey company, and it was. I mean, our business has been around in the city center for ever and ever, amen. We have been Royal Lepage for something like 14 years, I think 13 or 14 years when I purchased. Number one brokerage in the city, all those sorts of things. The largest, it was just like a lot of weight there. But I took over, and there was a lot of change. 6 weeks in, COVID hit. Greatest lesson, again, choice. I totally made a choice at that time, I should say, use right English, to lean into that process and understand that, you know what, this is a really good opportunity to showcase my leadership. It's a really, really good opportunity to support the agents in my office. It's a really good opportunity for me to learn things that, honestly, Bob and Jackie, who had been with the company for, 30 years, had never gone through. We had never had to deal with, like, well, I might have to lay people off. I may have to go through this. Now I'm leaning into government and understanding what pay looks like or what I have to do. And there was so much going on with COVID, with monies being released and taken back and all these things. But also for us as realtors, yes, we were able to work, but there was a lot going on there. And so Yeah, I didn't expect that, but it was, a neat curve that was added into my process. I think it was a little bit wearing at that time. Then once we kind of got through that, Jackie had let me know that she was going to retire. She had been a staple in our company for years. She was a part of building that company, a massive support system as the office manager and just my dad's second-hand woman. And so I knew it was something that was going to come. I thought I had a little bit more time, but again, pressure is not a bad thing if you can look at it either way. I don't think pressure is a bad thing personally.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, went on that curve, figured out how I was going to fill that seat. And then kind of continued on. And since then, I mean, you own a business and there's a lot that goes into it. Again, people will generally say, oh, you're a business owner. That must be great. You know what? Yes, but also it comes with a lot. You know what? Employees are a hard thing. We're working with independent agents. That's also a hard thing. And so, yeah, just different than I expected. We had 3 office floods. I was renovating the office. It was hectic.
Can you like there's a lot there too, Brooklyn, and
Yeah.
and like can you speak to, because I think you're right. Someone sees you as a successful agent, they own Royal Lepage, they have like this perception of like, oh, Brooklyn, yeah, she works hard, she's very fortunate, but like they also don't see or acknowledge the feelings of what I would probably feel as like scared, fear, worried, anxious through those times of transition. Can you maybe speak to that? Maybe you didn't have those, but I certainly would have. I
Yep.
know I do. Can you speak
Hmm.
to that and maybe some things that you did to help through those tough times? Because especially in a business transaction, there's a lot of time. It's not like this happens in a couple days. It can be
No.
months and months and months and a lot of dead period where your mind just goes.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of pressure there, not only because it was like my parent and they're still around. Like, I mean, Bob comes into the office every day, right? So it's that pressure to continue that success that has been built, but also define what that success looks like for me going forward because we have very different business profiles. Bob was a delegator. He had wonderful staff and that worked for him. I'm extremely hands on. I want to know how everything ticks, and I don't like ever feeling like somebody has an upper hand. And for, respect level basis, I know how to do the jobs in my office that I've hired employees for. We're the same grade.
Yeah,
And I feel that that's important for them to know too, that also if something happened, like,
you can
you
step
deal
in.
with your
Yeah.
stuff and we can support this, right? So we wore very different hats as an owner. So it was also like feeling out what that success looked like for me, but also having the weight of we've been the largest top producing brokerage for
Hmm.
X amount of years. And how do I uphold that? How do I keep all these agents happy? How do I still run my business? Because I think also a lot of people think, oh, you own the company, you're making all this money. It's not.
It's
It
two
is
separate it's two
definitely
separate things, right?
yes. Being an owner, I tell people it's a passion. That's what that is. It's not a moneymaker. When I look at the two, it's actually, some people might say, why are you doing that? Like you are finding your business. Why are you taking that on for X? But my goal was I knew what real estate had done for me. Um, I never expected, I knew that I had drive. I never actually really thought what my life would look like. So I don't want to say I didn't expect this out of me because I knew that if I pushed myself, I was that person that's like a giver, I could do it. But I just didn't know where I would be. And when
Yeah.
I look at my life and what I have, and even years back, that was my goal. It's like it gave me so much confidence as a human. It broke me out of my shell and all this like mix I had going on in my head about like, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? And, I was able to just go. And it was a very interesting process, but I think the main goal of owning was to help other people, to
Hmm.
help them understand and bring that, like everything that it brought to my life, the ability to have financial security, the ability, to grow and consistently help and deal with people. There's something about that that feels good and fills my cup anyways. And then that confidence. And I wanted to help other people do that. I felt I had already done it, my personal business. So that's actually why I kind of got into it, mixed with, okay, this would be an honorable thing.
Sure.
Um, and going through all of that, it's always hard because I don't think people see that. I had some rough moments, and I can tell you that 100%. If I wasn't stable in my mind space, working on myself daily, keeping active and fulfilling my body and health as I needed, there's no way that I could have given the mental space needed
Hmm.
to navigate what I had to navigate through.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And then being, a mom and a parent, and it was a non-negotiable to put my children second or my family
Yeah.
second. It just wasn't happening. And so I had three plates that I had to give 100% to. And I will say that having support, you need real MVPs. You are not the only one. I am fortunate enough to have family that is like so supportive of me, and not just like my bloodline family, but my
Mhm.
husband's family, like my in-laws. They're wonderful, and they have helped so much, with just kids and picking up where I need those moments filled. I did work with my babies. I brought my kids to work with me, but when they got moving, it gets different,
A
right?
lot different.
And so having that support, my husband, like um real MVP, it is not an easy task being married to a high producing realtor.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that, my life is hectic.
Hmm.
And you're on the phone, you're being pulled in all these different directions. It's a lot of aggravation happening in your brain. You have a lot of weight on you. You're making processes and experiences for multiple other people all the time while still trying to create those experiences in your own home. And my husband has been a dream. He has been so supportive and so available for me and our children and just all of the things.
Hmm.
I couldn't do what I did honestly over the last years without like good mind space and my people.
Super important, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
because I know, as easy as it is to say, oh, I want to, come home at night and show up the best for my family. Like that's the goal, but it's hard sometimes. It's super
Mm.
hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you got fires you need to put out, and unfortunately you have to deal with that stuff. You need that support system.
Yeah.
How I know you have two daughters. This is kind of a twofold question. How has becoming a parent changed you? And can you talk about your willingness to share your story publicly, like on social? The reason I ask that is because I get a lot of kickback from other agents being like, "Oh, I don't want to share my personal life," right? And I'm
Mm.
like, "Okay, that's fair, but you're missing out on opportunities there."
Yeah.
So, kind of a two-part question: was there some dialogue there, or just walk me through your decision to be open? Because I certainly
Yeah.
appreciate that with you, right?
Um, well, I truly believe in just like being honest, like
Mhm.
being yourself. I think that that is the most important thing, and honoring that. And so, you know what, there's a lot of, I don't even like to use the word, fake, but I'm struggling to find
Mhm.
another word. Illusion in the world that you think everything is a certain way, and it's not,
At all.
even and admittedly, even me, I don't want to go on social media and bleed out all these negatives. And so you do just see the positives, but also I think sometimes too, especially coming from second generation people in the office, people who know very clearly. It was actually a running joke, like, okay, Bob, give it up. Like, enough's enough. We know your daughter's good. You know what I mean? We didn't even work together until he like phased out, when it was like, okay, I'm gonna retire, and it's like good helping hands, right? But yeah, I just think it's important to showcase that, because if you want success, whatever that's in, it doesn't need to be business, but you have to know that you're going into it, that there's going to be a lot of work. You're going to have failure, and you're going to have to pick up and grow from that failure. And that's like number one, right? So I think that sharing that is important because visually people don't really know. And I think they just see what you're doing now. I say that to new agents coming in all the time. Like, you're looking at agents who have been doing business for like 15 years. Like, if I could have videoed you my first 5 years of business, like, so optically different,
Hmm.
not even in the realm, right, of even the daily tasks that I was doing, and even the systems that we had in place available to us. Like, I was running out 11 o'clock at night getting signatures on a contract
Yeah.
because we didn't have digital signing, right? So there's lots of different things, but I think that being humble and honest about what's going on in your life is always so important. And I think that people have lost that little bit of connection touch from that, because everything is just so online and, I don't know, curated to look perfect, and it's not. So I think that it's important to do that. I think that it evolves the connection that, humanity kind of needs a little bit right now, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's that part of the question. Secondary part, bring that up again.
How did becoming a parent change you?
Yes, oh
Which is
my
a question
gosh.
I wouldn't even think of asking 18 months ago, but I
Yeah,
know parenthood is just everything's different, everything. So
wild.
I would love to
Yeah,
hear how it's changed you.
yeah. You know, One, I guess first off, it was really neat. I've always had a really good relationship with my parents. Family's very important to me, but I feel like it made me reflect on that so differently. There was just like a point of gratitude there that, again, not expectant. I'm not a person
Hmm.
who's expectant of anything. But it's just like, your parents are making sure you're fed, you're well, they're hustling you to all your sports. And as somebody who played, a sport very competitively, it was very demanding. Not only in city but out of city, traveling all the time, your parents taking you and doing all these things. um and you just don't even think about it. You don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
You're a child or adolescent. But that was one thing that was really neat, that it was like, I get it now. Thank you.
I
Thank you
felt
so
I felt
much.
the same thing because I looking at my son, I'm like, holy shit, that's how my dad feels about me. Like
Yeah.
I never had that connection.
Yes, 100%. You don't, right? You don't know. The other thing is living for something other than you. Which I feel like I did in my own way. I've always been somebody, like, I was young and taking up volunteer work or doing those sorts of things. I always, enjoy giving back, but it's still very different. And the message that I'm breeding every day, in the walls of my home and outside, became very clear that, like, whoa, I have to be very intentional with this. I have two little humans that are watching me every single day, and they are so absorbent. It is phenomenal. It's amazing. And I just knew, like, there were certain things, optically, I've always struggled with, like, appearance, been really hard on myself. And my husband would always say, like, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. Then I had two girls. I've stopped, right? The
Wow.
message that I'm giving to those children is just so important. I don't
Mhm.
want them to see mom looking in the mirror and saying, like, oh, I don't like how I look, or oh, my hair, like,
Mhm.
just silly things that really, when we look at, like, life on a scale, why am I even,
Yeah.
gearing into myself that way? What does it matter? And if people, don't want to accept me for me, is that a me thing or is that a them thing? So there was lots that went on there when it came to kids, to just making sure that, yeah, you're putting out a good message, you're able to teach them good things, and yeah, doing something for people other than you on such an intimate
Mhm.
scale is something so different.
It's so different, and it's
So
hard when
different.
people ask like, "Hey, how's being a dad?" I'm like, "How long do you have?" Like
Yes,
everything,
literally.
everything is different. So,
Yes.
but I think that's something really cool. One of the things I didn't really know is like, the way I feel about being a parent is like what many people do, but we don't really talk about that because I
No.
don't know, it's kind of taboo. And I'm like, no, like if I feel that way, I'm sure other people do, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's
for sure.
important for people to hear. Um,
Yep.
Brooklyn, I want to know because I feel this too sometimes when you're maybe you're preoccupied with your kids, your family, and
Mhm.
you take a look at this phone and it's just tons. of notifications. You got agents asking you questions.
Yep.
You have clients being like, can we look at this house tonight at 8:30? And you got maybe another broker call. How do you handle that? How do you filter that?
Yeah. If when you're in a job interview and they say like, what could you bring to the table? Me 100% strong force multitasking. I don't know what it is. People always ask me, how do you do it? I don't even know if I could give you a direct
Hmm.
answer. I think it is honestly just built in me, which is I'm I'm very grateful for that skill set. I do think it comes down to I'm a calm person. I'm calm. And so, and I'm also very level-headed. So it takes a lot to really like boil me up, so to speak. And um I think you just have to be really good at multitasking and communicating, right? Even when I go into a listing presentation, because we've all been there, right? You have a client, they're super excited about getting feedback, and the showing's booked for an hour and they're messaging you 2 minutes after. And so it's always preparing people to understand what they can expect of you, which
Hmm.
also helps offset any angst that I might have about getting back to somebody
For sure.
instantaneously. But I will admit, over the last 2 years there was struggle there
Hmm.
because of the angst in the market.
Yeah.
And I found, as realtors, like, honestly, I'm not going to say nothing in real estate is urgent. There are definitely moments of urgency that, like, yes, we have
Sure.
to get this signed. But ultimately, at the end of the day, none of it is life or death. It's all very workable. And so I found over the last 2 years, even as like professionals, realtors, I would say to my husband multiple times, like, why are we doing this to each other? Like, why are these people down my throat? Like,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
just don't understand. Like, they wouldn't like that if they were in my shoes either. I give people space. Like, has to be a little bit of trust there in understanding everybody's at a different point, right? But I did struggle with that just because of the tone that was coming at me. But most times you're able to prepare your own landscape. And if you do that by communicating, getting back to the listing presentation, I tell my clients what they can expect.
Hmm.
You're not going to hear from me right away. I'm a moving force, and so are those other agents. Sometimes, as realtors, just like when we go out to look at houses, we're going to look at 4 or 5 when available,
Yeah, that's right.
depending on the market.
Uh-huh.
But when you're with me, you get my time, right? And so now I'm with you, and then think about that. I'm having to get feedback to all those agents after that as well. And if we write an offer, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to write the offer, or do you want me to give feedback to those realtors, right? And so when you flip it and now you're the listing agent, there's an understanding there to your client that is listing their home, that like, okay, I trust this person. They've now let me know what I can expect from them, and that's okay. That was a huge thing. I never laid that line for years. And that was massive. Like, learning that communication, and then applying it was huge.
Yeah, I'm
Huge.
guilty as well. Like pre-setting those expectations, I didn't hold enough space and time in meetings to do that
Yeah.
earlier on, and I felt the same way. And for those listening, when Brooklyn says that, she doesn't treat many things as fires, and she's calm and collected, I certainly feel that working in transactions with you. I know a couple months back we kind of had an urgent thing, but it was good. It was
Yeah.
like, hey, you know what? We have this issue. It's not as big as everyone's making it out to be. What's the next
Yeah.
steps? And for those of you that may have heard this framework, the 4 quadrants of time management, like quadrant one is like the person that deals everything in their life is a fire. It's urgent and important. And
Hmm.
those type of people really struggle in real estate, where everything in their life is a fire and it's urgent and it's like, holy smokes. Where I
Yeah.
think of you, Brooklyn, more quadrant two, where yeah, it's urgent, but it's not as important as we may initially think it is, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's making that touch point to make people feel heard.
yeah.
And even with my agents, like putting on that broker hat, I make it clear to them, like, if it's something urgent, like, send me a text and say this is urgent. I will step away from what I'm doing to deal with that. And again, just let any kind of circumstance I'm in, just know, like, hey, I'm sorry. I just have to step away for a quick minute, right?
Hmm.
And then you can deal with that. So it's also just navigating and prioritizing, which is huge, in life in general, learning how to prioritize is a massive thing. And being organized and having systems, again, like now, I'm at a different point too, where I do have support systems as well, where I have a team and I have administrative, individuals hired to be supportive for, me, my clients, those sorts of things too. So it makes a huge difference. But I usually find as human nature, we're our own biggest enemy.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you choose to allow that angst to take over and not like delegate in your mind or communicate so that you can make things easier and you're just always in fire mode, you're
Mhm.
gonna strip away the joy. And like last 2 years of real estate, there was a little bit of that for me. Like I love what I do. If
Sure.
anybody knows me, they know I always say that, and I truly do. There was definitely a little bit of joy, just honestly feeling abused. As a
Mhm.
top producing agent, I felt abused.
Wow.
That's just the truth, even from other realtors. I remember at one point having to tell a realtor, like, I gave you a comment back. We gave you a counter. I'm putting my child to bed.
Yeah.
I got a text saying, if you don't give me a response in, the next 10 minutes, my clients are going to walk. I literally told my clients, and my clients said, let them.
Yeah.
But for
Wow.
me, having that come from a realtor on the other side, it was just like, man,
It's
I
crazy,
have
right?
I have serviced this all day.
Yeah.
I want to put my children to bed. I'm not negotiating on that. I'm a human. I deserve 10 minutes. I deserve 15. I deserve an hour, right? And so that was definitely joy stripping. And for me, that's kind of the first time I would say in my career in the last year that like with other peers that I had to become a little bit of a different
Yeah.
character, to be a little bit more stern and not just like that easygoing, yeah, no problem. Yeah. Which I am known to
It,
be, right?
it's hard, right? Because, as much as we like to control our environment, we're doing transactions with other agents. And I know as the market has shifted, there's a lot of worry, I'll just call it what it is, from agents. And when
Yeah.
they do get a line on a deal, you can sense that urgency.
Yeah.
And that's actually off-putting for most people. But
Yeah.
so yeah, it's the market is going in a direction where a lot of agents, at least I can feel that in transactions. I can
Yeah.
feel the urgency, and I'm like, hey, that's not a good space to be to make this work for our clients. Yeah,
And I think there's professionalism there.
yeah,
Like I get where they're coming from. Don't get me wrong on that. I was there too. When I first started and I only had, one or two things on the go. Um, yeah, absolutely. I am applying all the professionalism and timeliness matter to those situations. And so because I can,
hmm,
instantaneously. I have nothing but time, but
yeah,
I do like to respect other people's space. I have you looked after, and that's kind of how you deal with it, right? But I think that's the difference. And for some people, it is that worry, but I think they honestly just don't know, and they're not putting themselves in someone else's boots.
hmm,
And so it's like that is their only task. And so it's just like drive, drive, drive.
hmm.
And that's unfortunately not my only task. We're in very different situations, right? And so I was trying to figure out how to be humble about that. I am not somebody who's like, look at me, shiny star. Most people I don't even think know that I own Royal Lepage,
Hmm.
because I'm not somebody who's like, hey, I want all these accolades for everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think
Hey,
it's just one of those situations, right? That you have to kind of figure out a tasteful way to communicate again and just lay lines so that you can function appropriately, and also the people on the other side, because you care about how they feel too,
of
right?
course,
You
yeah.
want everybody to feel taken care of, but we're only human, so
That's right. That's right. I know we're cutting short on time. I did want to
yeah.
touch on this last topic, just about your involvement in the community, with whether it be the Royal LePage Breast Cancer Golf Tournament, other stuff
Mhm.
you're doing in the community. Can you speak to that? And I know it, like the front facing thing is all Royal LePage is doing, but I see all the work behind the scenes that goes on.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that, and how do you handle all that, and what do you guys have coming up that the community can know about?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that was actually, you know what, if I were to say a third piece of being an owner, that was probably it, is knowing that it was a vehicle with more people to be able to do bigger things, right, in your community. So whether that's just like volunteering as a group, and when I say that, like it's like anything else. You have 50 agents, how many people are showing up? But I think the purpose is that you're being a community builder and you're putting that placement there for people to show up and be a part of, right? So just, yeah, raising money in community, supporting events like Halo and Rise
Mm.
Up, all the things that are really important that we feel bonded to within Medicine Hat,
Yeah,
our company is on board for. And that's a really amazing thing about being a part of a large brokerage. We have, you know, our internal advertising that we send to every month, each of us individually, and ultimately we can, you know, bring up a pot of cash that we can put back out to the community, which is
sure.
huge. Obviously, our breast cancer golf tournament, you know, going 25 years now,
That's crazy.
is huge, right? I think that's how long.
I'm pretty
If
sure,
that's
yeah.
wrong, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm pretty sure. And you know what? That has been like an evolving
It is an event.
tournament.
It
It's
is
an
an event.
event and it's
Yeah.
so cool. And yeah, and just, you know, even when we were able to bring on Mr. Yule and have the support to match the donations, it's like, when do you ever have that opportunity to then have, you know, an outside entity say, hey, I'm matching this on like a locally grown level? So, like, super grateful for that support. That took our tournament to the next level with how we were able to support our community and those in need in Medicine Hat dealing with cancer, right? Um, so those are a lot of the main things. And then doing stuff for client appreciation is huge too, right? Like just
Sure.
having little events and showcasing that we're not transactional, we're very relationship based.
Hmm.
Royal Lepage as a company is very philanthropic,
It's
if
a
I'm
tough word.
saying
I'm
that
happy you
right. It's
tried it.
very close. That one I struggle with. Philanthropy, I'll
Yeah,
say all day,
there
but
you
as
go.
soon as I have to say it that way, with our shelter foundation,
Mm.
you know, and that's close to home for me. My grandma, as mentioned, my dad kind of came from a hardship of childhood, and there was abuse there. And so, you know, my grandma was somebody who utilized, you know, women's shelter. And so knowing
Mm.
that this was a part of our company was really, really cool. And the engagement that we have Canada wide, it's honestly, it is unbelievable. And to even be in a room with that amount of people giving that much to something outside themselves is like it's a feeling, it's a
Yeah,
vibe, and it is so special. And I donate
yeah.
off every commission check to the women's shelter, our local women's shelter.
That's
So
amazing.
80% goes to the shelter, and then 20% goes to educating, you know, those in need to get out of these abusive situations. And so, you know, at the end of a year, it's pretty cool to be able to give, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars to our local shelter just individually as well. We do our playhouse for shelter. That
Yeah.
was our newest thing last year. That was kind of fun to do. So we're always looking to investigate how we can do more for our community and be involved in whether that's local businesses or, you know, non-for-profit. We're
Yeah.
here for it.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, Brooklyn. I know we
Mhm.
could do this for hours. Maybe we'll have you back on closer to the breast cancer tournament in the summer.
Yeah. Cool.
But I want to acknowledge you for a second because you are what I would call like a vehicle builder. You're helping build vehicles for people to buy and sell real estate, and
Hmm.
you're building a vehicle to help agents live a bigger and better life. You're building a vehicle to help build community, and just one of those things is incredibly tough to do. And the fact that you can wear all those hats and still show up for your family, take care of yourself, be in a mentally good space. People don't understand how difficult that is, and I just wanted to say and acknowledge you publicly for that because I certainly learn a lot from you just watching you from a distance. And lastly,
Thank you.
if anyone wants to get a hold of you, Brooklyn, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Um, Online. You
Yeah,
can find me there, right? You can search my name and I'm there. Pick up the phone. I'm really into calling nowadays. Like even this, it's videoed, but it's just cool to connect, right? Um, that's where you can find me out on the streets showing houses. I don't know.
there you go. There you go. Any closing comments, Brooklyn? Anything I missed to touch on that you wanted
No, you know what? I just want to say the same for you. I know we text on the
to?
offside and people don't generally know that, but like I'm always following your story too. And, there's intrigue there. And I have always so appreciated like your drive and willingness to put it out there and just your commitment to things. It's very clear online, whether it's golf or working out or now being a dad,
Mhm.
your service to your, I guess, past position and all those sorts of things that you were going through. And I've always really also respected that as a distance. And, thank you for offering me an opportunity to speak on your piece here. That's
Yeah.
great too. And that's it.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
everyone. We'll talk to everyone next week. Thank you, Brooklyn, for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Have
Take
a
care.
great week.
Bye.